An entire world is ready
for you to start your career teaching the path to wellness,
mastering the science of mindfulness,
and the art of coaching
to help clients achieve mental, emotional, and physical betterment of life
through movement,
nutrition,
recovery, and regeneration.
Because impacting one person impacts a family.
Impacting a family impacts a community.
And impacting a community impacts the world.
Become an NASM certified wellness coach.
You're listening to Random Fit with hosts Wendy Batts and Ken Miller, winner of a Gold Markham Award for Digital Media.
Hello, everyone. Welcome to an episode, or another episode, I should say, of Random Fit. My name is Wendy Batts, and I'm here with Ken Miller, my friend and co-host. So, Ken, how are you today?
I am awesome. Because I know I'm going to walk away here learning some perspective on how I can get my heart to beat a little bit faster. Yeah.
A little faster. There's so many ways to make the heart flutter, but today we're going to be talking about different ways of doing cardio. And, we got some really good feedback, so we appreciate the comments that are coming through. But one of the questions that we got that I thought was a phenomenal question, and one of the things that Ken and I thought, that is worth a podcast, was let's talk about some heart challenging movements. So we do appreciate, again, the comments. So if there's something you want Ken and I to talk about, please be sure to send them in. You can either write it down, email us directly, whatever it is. We'll just make sure that we get it. You can find us on Instagram even and throw us a message in there. But that's what we're going to talk about today, Ken. Let's talk about some heart challenging movements that you do with your clients as well as yourself.
Yeah. And, as far as the context and what really got me thinking about this is, for some of us that might run small group or group training, and what I used to do as a strength coach is when you have a team in front of you, how do you get their heart rate up, or how do you challenge a group or a team when, if I've got 40 people in front of me, how can I do it as a group? Because if I only have 10 dumbbells or 10 resistance bands, but I've got 40 people, how do you get them to be challenged physically? Well, body weight exercises. And again, if you want to work on some conditioning, working on your fitness and your cardiorespiratory health, having options where that doesn't require them to run a mile out and run a mile back, they can do everything in front of you. That's what that question actually, that's what the space that I was forced into it. So when you have large group, limited equipment, how do you get them to break a sweat and get warmed up? But also like what you and I do, Wendy, especially with one of our more recent trips where, again, if you don't know the terrain, you don't know the area, you don't want to get lost, how can I get some cardio in without getting a run? Because usually that's what we'll tell you. Yeah, go for a run, get out there. You get off of a plane, get your heart rate up, get a good sweat going. But if you're like, well, this place, might be a little sketchy, or I don't want to run a mile out and then lose my way on the way back.
Are you talking about me when I went on my walk? So those of you guys that listened to our last episode when we talked about Germany, I would go for a walk every morning at like 4:00 because again, there was a 6-hour time difference where I was. And the very first morning I was going to go for a 30-minute walk, and an hour and 25 minutes later, I was walking back because I got lost.
You didn't even tell me that. I just thought, okay, Wendy's an early riser. We're in a different time zone. It's 5 a.m. She's going out for a walk. I didn't realize it's like, wow, she's a champion walking an hour. But I didn't realize you got lost.
So thank goodness for, the apps that can say, okay, I need to go here, and you can put the walking sign where it's like, because again, those of you guys that didn't listen to it, you should. We were in Germany, so everything's written in German. So it's not like, hey, I need to go this way or that way. You're just looking for anything that looked remotely like the same words that you saw in the app. But anywho, but to your point, Ken, I think it's important that we do talk about different exercises that you can do, because cardio is very important. Obviously, your heart is a muscle. We need it to work. We want it to beat faster. But as you just stated, you don't always have that quote cardio equipment. You don't have the different machines. And so I know with my clients too, when we're working out, I throw what I call metabolic, challengers or metabolic blasters, if you will, in their programs, because I want them to do certain movements very slow and very controlled. However, especially if they're a weight loss client, I want to increase their heart rate throughout the workout too. So one, you can just do one exercise after another. There's limited rest. That's going to obviously keep your heart rate up, even if you're doing the movement slow. But then one of the things, and we're going to talk about, I guess maybe 5 or 6 different ones, Ken, if you feel like that's a good start, because we could go on forever. But one of the things that I think we take for granted is doing things on our hands. And and so I'm obviously big fan of core. Again, you guys know that I presented on that. But, when we do things like the plank, people just do the plank up and down or on their side and do a side plank up and down, or they do it for time. But, if you think about this and you think about the demand, if you're in a plank position and you go up onto, like, from your elbows up onto your hands, like you're going to do a push-up. So you go from a plank to a push-up position, and you do that at a faster pace and go up on your left hand for 7 or 8, then go up with your right hand 7 or 8, maintaining proper alignment. It is amazing how hard that is, first and foremost, but also when you start moving your hands in a downward or prone position, it increases your heart rate very, very quickly. So if you can do it because it's safe, I mean, again, you're in a face down position and you have the strength to maintain proper form in a plank, just try it and see what your heart rate does. And you're going to see, obviously, and you'll see it increase. But if you want to even challenge it further, get a small step and then do a step up and step down on your hands. And I think it makes it really fun. It's different, but your clients finish or you finish and you're like, oh my gosh, that was way harder than you think it should be.
Right. And, if, again, in the scenario where you might be on the road and challenging, or you're on the road and the challenge is getting a workout in, and I know you do this too, Wendy. It's like sometimes you just have to get the workout in next to your bed. So in between the bed and the dresser where the TV is. And so that exercise that you bring up, if I can lay down, if I can have one body print on the floor, it's a compact movement. I don't need 10 yards to do that, but that's a great exercise because I often do that as part of a circuit for a core circuit. So if you're going for a minute, 2 minutes, just up, down, again, just moving them, you're able to watch the shoulders. Again, if I'm your strength coach or personal trainer, I'm watching the integrity of your shoulder blades on your rib cage. I'm watching your hips and making sure that your midsection is engaged. Are you squeezing or are you engaging the glutes? And are you able to keep everything in line? So that option, as with some of the options that we're going to talk about, if you're not running on the road, which a lot of people don't realize how much structural integrity you need to run, whether it's on a treadmill, on the road, or even a stair climber. But, you're talking about, 3-6 times body weight when you're running, right? And when you're jumping 10 to 12 times. So there's a lot of structural integrity. Can your body handle the landing? So when you're running, you have one foot in front of the other. And that's a lot of impact, right? So when people talk about my knee, my foot and ankle, my knees, my hips don't feel well, how do you reel things back in? Well, at its simplest, let's just get you on the ground. Let's have you using some of that upper body strength. Let's challenge stability through the shoulders, through the core, through the hips. And let's do this for time. And just like anything else that you would do to implement or to challenge cardio, you can start off at a minute and then you can increase time and then you can increase intensity. But I'd say that same exercise, Wendy, have you ever done it with your foot propped up on a chair or on the bed? So now you're at a decline. And then that's
dude, I can barely do it the right way, but yes, that would definitely be a progression. Right. I mean, I don't know if you guys have seen the gun show or anything, but and I'll try not to flex to make you jealous, but yeah, I usually don't do it at a decline because it is more body weight and it is definitely harder. And I've noticed when I've tried to go into that position, sometimes my head will jump forward, which is a compensation. So therefore I back it down and go with what I know. But yes. Definitely fine.
Yeah. So overall, that is one really quick way to get the heart rate going, right?
Yep.
So you work yourself into it easy, especially because it's different than just holding the plank. Now we're moving. So a lot of upper body strength, which unfortunately not everybody has good upper body strength and stability, which this challenges. So you basically kill 2 birds with one stone, challenging the muscles, challenging stability. Well, actually it's more than 2 birds, but also challenging cardio.
Lots of them.
3 birds. Yeah.
Those of you guys that are joining Ken Miller and I today on Random Fit, we're talking about different ways of doing some some cardio, ways to increase your heart rate by doing, different types of exercises or movements without it having just to be equipment based. So, I don't want to call them free movements, but kind of free movements, if you will. And so far we've talked about doing things in a plank position and utilizing your hands. And like I said, I talked about doing plank walks, up, down, even doing step ups, but even lateral walks, where you're kind of walking side by side or walking into a rotational position. So you're working different planes of motion. Again, make it different, do something, but you will be surprised how that heart rate will shoot up. So that would be one of the first ones. And then this is a question, Ken, and I don't know if you get it, but I always hear people are like, I just started my program and I did burpees and now I'm so sore. And I'm thinking, well, what other kind of, cardio type or metabolic blasts, if you will, again, that's what I call it, but call it whatever you want. But what did you do to work your way up? And oftentimes I get nothing, this is what I saw to do on a video, or this is what people are doing, when I read these articles. And guys, let me just say that I think it's very, very important that you do a burpee. If you want to work your way up to doing legitimate, safe burpees where you are going to get the most bang for your buck because you're working the right muscles at the right time, I think it's important to think about taking it in steps. And first and foremost, can you do a squat jump and land it correctly with your feet, pointed straight ahead, and you've got good alignment within your core and your posture? So can you do a squat jump? The second part of that is, can you do a push-up? And then on top of that, I usually would start a more regressed type cardio blast, if you will, or metabolic blast, such as a mountain climber. Because again, you need to be in that face down position for multiple periods of time before you start changing from being face down and jumping straight up and being face down and jumping straight up. So there's a lot of different components. Even changing elevation can make people dizzy. It can, because again, you've got to think about, if I stand up really quick, sometimes, that dizzy feeling, I don't want someone to be doing that in the middle of doing a burpee. And I don't know, Ken, I've had clients that are like, every time I do that, I feel like I get dizzy. And I'm like, wait a minute, just from standing to sitting to standing, burpees would not be appropriate at that point, may not ever be appropriate, but I know that I need a progression. So I don't know if you have that or you've heard those same things, but start
the lightheadedness.
Starting out with a burpee.
Oh yeah. I mean, here's the thing. It's a great exercise. And, one of the things that you and I both know that's really important is our relationship with the ground, right? Because as we get used to sitting in chairs, standing up, putting our butts on the floor winds up being an uncomfortable thing. So as you go through the aging process, if heaven forbid something should happen when you're on the ground, a lot of people panic, right? Older people can panic if they have a fall because they don't know how to react when they're on the floor. So I think having somebody understand the importance of doing a burpee properly is really good, but also from the standpoint that it gets us comfortable being on the floor, if you will. And because, your burpee movement requires you to be prone and then to stand, we get someone stronger from the ground on up, right? So if we can do that, then we're improving the relationship with gravity and getting them comfortable with being able to get up off of the floor, which winds up being one of your more important life-saving skills as you get older. So great exercise. Unfortunately, it's one of those that gets abused because hey, if you have a trainer that just wants to kick your butt and make you remember the moments of your workout, and it's like, man, he really put it to us, right? But what good is that if your wrists are hurting because because you dropped down to the ground, or if your low back hurts because you got up with poor form, right? So getting down on the ground, taking just a modified lunge, crawling your way out, getting your push-up, however you can do it with good structural integrity, and then getting yourself up. Because if you think about it, it is the intermediate steps of performing a mountain climber, right? When you take that step, and then you stand up. Mm-hmm. So that's another way of incorporating that. But if I want somebody to get on the ground, it's an opportunity to teach them how to do it properly, and then progressively getting them to stand up in a way that isn't compromising to their joints or their muscles.
Yeah. And like I said, I usually, like you said, work through all the steps in the exercise side of it. So the squat, the plank, the push up, all that is important because those are going to mimic obviously what a burpee is at a faster pace. But, I think when you're really teaching someone and you're trying to build stamina, guys, really start with the mountain climber first, because make sure your client can do it, but with good form. Because again, what you're going to notice common compensations is like all of a sudden their hips go up. So it's like they're making a triangle with their body versus keeping it nice and flat. So maintaining good alignment throughout, making sure their knees are coming towards their chest and not out to the side, that when their feet do touch the ground and they're coming back, that their foot, their feet aren't turned out. Because again, those are going to mimic the same things you're going to see in a mountain climber. I mean, in a burpee. And so am I a burpee fan? I absolutely love all exercises as long as they can be performed correctly. So just know that the mountain climber and burpees are awesome ways to immediately get the heart rate up. Start at 30 seconds, work your way up at that point, because it is super challenging, especially someone that's never really done them before, or that is sedentary and getting back into an active lifestyle. Just be smart when you're doing it for yourself, or if you're a trainer and you're working with a client, just make sure that they can perform it correctly, because with that fast pace and those jumps, you can lead to injury if you're not careful.
Right. And yeah, just like anything else, just know who the audience is, who's your client, what have you done to prepare them for that movement, and then progress them responsibly. Great exercise if done correctly. The worst exercise if it's not for the right person or for the right goal. Yep.
And so far, again, those of you guys joining Random Fit with Ken Miller and myself, Wendy Batts, we're talking about exercises to challenge your heart. And different movements that you can do within your workout without having to have external equipment. So far we've talked about doing things like, hand walks or plank walks and working different planes of motion by utilizing your hands and upper body strength. Then we just talked obviously about mountain climbers and then going into burpees. One of the exercises that I love, and I had done this virtually, I do this in the gym. I do it with my trainer, or I'm sorry, my professional athletes, and I do it with people that like have never played with ropes. You'll see those battle ropes in the gym. And, if you guys have never, ever done a battle rope, it is super, super challenging and it taxes you so quickly, but it's amazing for your shoulders and all of the rotator cuff muscles, as well as your upper body, if you do it correctly. And then of course you can incorporate lower body movements. One of the things when I say I've done it virtually is I know my clients usually don't have battle ropes or an anchor. And so one thing that I will have them do is either grab hand towels. Ken, I don't know if you do this, but hand towels. And then as they get stronger, move into like a bath towel and then a beach towel, because obviously those get longer and heavier. So that's the same that with battle ropes, they're different. The girth is different because that will actually, the skinnier and smaller it is, the easier it is. Obviously, as it gets bigger and thicker, the harder it is to move. And that I think is something that requires no equipment really other than what you have at your house. But it will get your heart rate up super fast for sure.
Yeah, because if you're trying to flip that towel and, just again, be careful, because I've seen, it's not like that locker room thing where you just kind of flick the towel and try and, get someone in the thigh, right? This is one of those, if you're waving a towel and you're just trying to get that little snap at the end, that is a form of power. And for a lot of people, moving quickly is not, let's say, their forte, right? Just because, for a lot of us, moving fast, moving powerfully is, just not something that we have trained to do. So towels are great. I think one of our instructors, Rick Ritchie, had a video series on that, how to use the towel, for conditioning. But the one thing I've done it for, as far as athletes go, if they're on the road, is what we call fogels. So you'll take a little towel and you'll weave it through your fingers. So in mimicking the baseball throw, right? So they'll just they'll go from, let's say, first base to second base, and they'll go through the throwing motion, trying to whip and snap that towel in front of them. as if they were throwing a ball. So again, that's one example of how you can keep your athletes in shape for the powerful movements that they're doing. So you can have both hands at the edge of the towel and snapping that, or what I have my baseball players do, or my throwers in general, is doing focals, and that's going through that whipping motion with the towel, getting that snap in front of you. So that's one way you can. That's one thing I've had my athletes do when they're on the road, just to maintain, good hip shoulder rotation and trying to maintain some speed. So again, if they're limited on where they can go, what they can do, or if it's, in some situations, if you're in Arizona, for example, if it's 110 degrees outside, the last thing you want to do is have them going outside and doing their conditioning, when they can do that in their hotel room or in their, wherever they're staying.
I will say, here's a note to self. If you guys don't have a trainer, you've never done anything, and you're going to try this at home, and let's say you start with the hand towels. I usually have people hold 2 separate hand towels, and then they just mimic. So they're just moving their arms up and down. You can do side to side movements. You can do circles each direction. So there's a lot of different ways of going about it, and you're going to feel the differences between all of them. Just the first time I had a client try it, that wasn't my client at the time, that had seen a video, and they had come into me and they said, I obviously need a trainer. They had this big welt right there.
Oh no.
Face. And I was like, what did you do? And, because they said that they were starting to do some conditioning on their own, and that they were watching videos, and they had seen different apps, and that they had tried to do some things, but obviously they felt like their form wasn't working. They snapped themselves with the towel when they were doing the up and down motion. And so literally made a mark. So just make sure when you do that you're in control of the towel, and that your face isn't a part of of the trajectory where the towel is going to be flicking.
Right. You're gonna shoot your eye out with that.
Exactly. Right. I'm like, wow, I have never in my life seen it, but I just wanted to put it, I wanted to put it out there that
safety goggles.
Yep. And then, Ken, I know we can keep going. And so just as a recap, those of you guys that are joining Random Fit with Ken Miller and I, we're talking about hard, challenging movements. So we talked about, just thinking outside of the box. And I know we've talked about a lot of different cardio things that you can do, and things of consideration, whether you have equipment or not. Based on some of the feedback that we got, people wanted to know a few more exercises that we do. So far we've talked about plank walks and doing things on our hands. We've talked about doing, mountain climbers and burpees, and how that's a kind of a progression. We talked about battle ropes and towels, and the ways that you can do it if you don't have access to ropes, or you're doing things at home, but I think, there's actually probably 2 more that I want to break to bring up. And one of them I think we take for granted because we see them everywhere, and it's utilizing the steps. And again, I told you guys I see clients virtually as well as in person. And my virtual clients, they do have a stairwell in their house that's close to where they perform their exercises. And so what I have them do is we will do a circuit. So after we've done their core, their balance, their plyos, and we've got them warmed up, I'll have them do a chest exercise, back, shoulders, maybe bis and tris and legs. And then immediately after they do that, I have them go up and run up the stairs as fast as they can, come down one by one, controlled. Then they do that again. They do it twice. And then I have them skip a step going up, always coming down single and controlled, because I don't want them tumbling on the way down. I don't care how fast they can come down. I want them to be safe. And I have them do that twice. And they're dying, meaning their heart rate is up, they're breathing heavy. And then I'm like, okay, grab water, and we're going to do it again. And so we go back to the core, the chest and the back and the exercises, and we do that as a circuit. And so again, when we talk about metabolic blast, that's nothing that they had to have access to or buy or do anything. That's just something they have access to in their home. And I think we take that for granted. And to me, I find those to be phenomenal implement to use, or modality, if you will, that's already built into their house.
Right. And like we mentioned at the top of this recording is, when we're on the road, the hotel we tend to stay at usually has 6 stories. So we would go up and down the stair. I mean, it's funny when you say that you went up the stairs and up and down the stairs and I go up and down. So it's like, how did we not cross paths with each other?
I know.
But that is one of those. I get my the podcast going and you're just going up and down, and it's just, you can go every other flight, you can run or sprint, and then every other flight you can walk in between that. So however, and I'm a big fan of scalability, right? However you can modify it to fit your client's capacity for work, and of course to address safety, but also variability. So with stairs, I've had clients go up sideways. When it's appropriate, they can do a little modified karaoke, just, getting that hip turn and twist. They might be holding onto the railing as they get that little step forward and step behind, but it is a true, test of hip mobility, stability, and strength. So that's just one way. If you wanted to spice it up versus just going straight up and straight down, you can add a little rotation. You can add a little lateral movement as well, especially when it comes to, okay, let's do, what can we do to strengthen up the hips? And then like a little side step or a side lunge going up the steps is one way to really, blast those legs, and not, in addition to the heart.
Well, and I think too, just even doing step ups on, like not even like running the steps, but if you're, got a client that comes where you maybe are experiencing like some knee quote pain, which again, we don't deal with pain. We work on discomfort, if you will. We really teaching proper alignment, making sure the second and third toe and the knee stay lined up, and that you kind of lean forward and place all your weight onto that front leg to accept the load. I think it's really, slowing it down, making sure that you're stepping properly, because if your foot's turning out and your knees caving in, and then you're having people run the stairs, or you're running the stairs and you're skipping the stairs, that's not ideal. And that's going to lead to further issues of discomfort, especially on the way down. So again, making sure that you've got proper alignment. So I do a lot of step ups, where they come up, they'll step up, they see what they're doing. I show them what they need to do. They feel how they need to slightly lean forward. And then when they step up, maybe have them balance for a second or two and slowly come out of that, still maintaining weight on that front leg and not coming all the way down, but just tapping their back foot to the ground and then coming right back up. That time under tension, guys, is a really, really hard thing to do. It's a really great way to build the glutes and the quads, which are your prime movers and what you should be using when you're doing any kind of stairs. So when you start to do some of these metabolic things going at a faster pace, you know that their form is exceptional. You know that there's not going to be stress on the anterior or the front portion of their knee. And like, you hear more people say when they're going down a hill that they feel it more going down on their joints than they do going up. Well, it's because it's a lot more pressure and a lot harder to decelerate, slow things down if you haven't trained it properly. So step ups are amazing. And then adding the cardio component of utilizing steps in all 3 planes of motion, I think it's one of my favorite things to use that doesn't require anything other than what's right there.
Right. And again, if you're on the road, one of the things that, to your point, Wendy, when it comes to the posture and the importance of posture and good technique, is that now when you have rucksacks or weighted vests and things like that, if you wanted to augment or challenge yourself even more, form and technique are that much more important. Because if you're going in with, compromised form and technique, and now you want to load your body or load the system, you could be doing a lot, against your body than anything else. So as we go over heart challenging movements here on Random Fit with both Wendy Batts and me, Ken Miller, we're going over options that you can do. If you don't have a treadmill, don't have a Stairmaster, you don't want to go outside for a run because it's too hot or too cold, how can we use the environment that's easily accessible to challenge your heart? So stairs are great. And again, just being mindful that when you start to do those things you're seeing a lot more on social media with, weighted backpacks. So one of the things I do, I tend to travel with more books and things, my computer and things that on me than I tend to wear. I'll put a couple of books in a backpack, and that's what I'll do. Go up and down the stairs just to add a little bit of challenge.
Yep. And then I think, and again, I know we can talk about a ton of different ones, but one other one that I think goes underrepresented, that is a really good one. and it utilizing like pretty much it's a full body metabolic blaster that you're not in a face down position. You don't really have to do anything other than stand up and then jump. Is something as simple. And I say simple if you're coordinated. If you're not coordinated, it maybe not be so simple, but just a basic jumping jack.
Yeah.
I do those with my son, and we end up laughing more. We have such a fun time because I'm like, what are you doing? And so it's actually really cute to watch him like learn his movement patterns. And then he's like, I bet I can do more than you. And I'm like, so it becomes like a fun thing that I can do with my son. And something that I know is going to benefit him, but it also forces me to do it. And then I'll wake up the next morning. I'm like, man, that was a lot harder than I thought, because again, I want to win. So I will I will do jumping jacks until I think he's about, until one of us cheats, which usually will be him. So that way I win. I don't let my kid win.
Oh man. It'll mean that much more when he actually does beat you.
I know. I know.
Yeah.
Yes.
But with jumping jacks, it's again, you call it metabolic blast. If I'm trying to get your heart rate up, I might have you do some push-ups and then do some jumping jacks to get the heart rate up. Now, again, scalability is important. So I've often brought up on this show the older gentlemen's group that I work with virtually, and they come in with different capacities of work of strength and stability and conditioning. So somebody might be doing their jumping jacks, the arms out to the side overhead, feet jumping out and back in. But then if someone's got a knee issue that day, they might just step out, step right, step left as they're moving their arms. But, to explore different variations, you can go arms in front, right? Arms in front to the side if you can't go overhead, right? You can have your feet cross versus next to each other. You can also do more of a scissor kick, forward and backward, and test coordination. Their arms are going to the side, feet are going forward, feet are going to the side, hands are going forward. So if you really want to stump your clients or challenge your coordination, there's a lot of different ways that you can execute jumping jacks. Or in that example, we tend to call that the seal jack, right? So it's like seal clap. It's like a seal clapping.
Oh, well, there you have it. You make that noise too?
That's my seal impersonation of the day. My animal impersonation of the episode.
You basically call it out, do, a traditional one, do your seal. I'll say crisscross applesauce, but we usually do that on the ground, but it's like the crisscross, and so then they have to think and change on the fly. So again, it becomes a motor unit recruitment type thing too. Like, can the brain and the body do what you're telling it to do on the fly while they're doing something completely different? So a lot of different ways of challenging it, but that was another one that I know that we wanted to talk about because it's a really good one. And to your point, you can spice it up any way you want.
Anywhere and do it anywhere. Right.
Yep. So, well, this was fun, Ken. I mean, again, I know I've said this multiple times on this podcast, but we really appreciate these types of questions coming in because we want to make sure that we're delivering content that you want to hear. So if there is something that you want us to talk about, please contact us and we will do our best to get it on the show.
Yeah. So again, for everybody here listening to us on this episode of Random Fit, as far as heart challenging movements, things you can do on the road, at home, you want to spice things up, get a metabolic blast, as Wendy likes to call it. I call it that too. Hopefully you got something out of this episode. So again, like what Wendy said, follow, subscribe, comment, let us know what you want to hear. And until next time, on behalf of Wendy and I on the Random Fit Show, take care and be well.